Wonderful. Okay, audience, we are live. It is exactly 11 o'clock, and this is now your spa and wellness panel. So thank you everyone for joining us. It's great to have you here. This session of Spa and Wellness Trends is sponsored by Fit Summit's exhibitor Behold Retreats, who you can view now in the Expo tab. Jonathan de Potter and his team at Behold Retreats offer plant medicine-based retreats with holistic coaching and therapeutic programs that incorporate retreats in idyllic locations, providing life-changing and transformative experiences. You can connect with Jonathan at behold-retreats.com. Today, we are going to be discussing the emerging trends in the wellness landscape, new concepts, services, and offerings for consumers focused on well-being, when we expect investment and confidence in wellness travel and tourism to return, and the outlook of investment into virtual and online wellness, and which brands are really leading the curve in that respect. This session, audience, is recorded, as are all other sessions at the Fit Summit, and they will be available for you to download on demand later. But firstly, I want to welcome today's panelists to the discussion. We have Lindsay Madden-Nadeau, the founder of Meraki, which is a bespoke wellness strategies consultancy, and she is also former global director of wellbeing for Accor. Lindsay is launching this new venture in September, and it is based in the south of France. Until very recently, she was employed by Accor as their global director for well-being for all luxury brands, more specifically Raffles, Orient Express, Fairmont, M Gallery, and Movenpick. With over 20 years of experience in the luxury sector, Lindsay has held senior roles with Jumeirah and Anantara, managing regional operations there. And within Accor, she was responsible for each individual brand's global well-being strategy, including conceptualization, brand identity, programming, project management, design, and pre-opening, as well as looking at the key partnerships for wellness, spa, and fitness within those brands. Lindsay is a qualified yin yoga teacher with a particular interest in pranayama and meditation, and she's passionate about fitness and nutrition and how they enhance vitality. Traveling to over 60 countries, her wealth of personal experiences inspires her daily work every single day. Lindsay, if you could just wave hi to the audience for us.
Thank you, Blair. Thank you for the introduction. Happy to be here with you all.
Great. We also have Ingo Schweder, the founder and CEO of GOCO Hospitality, joining us. Ingo, a little live there if you want. Hailing from a family of designers and design-related professionals, Ingo injects fresh ideas combined with professional project management into the rapidly expanding wellness hospitality sector. He has over 30 years of experience in spa and hospitality. He has led design, development, and operation into some of the most iconic wellness hospitality ventures around the world. GOCO Hospitality has completed over $3.5 billion of luxury health and wellness projects across 5 continents. And he also manages the GOCO branded spas and retreats in strategic spots around the world. He is the managing director of Horvath Hotel Health and Wellness, a global brand with 45 offices worldwide based in Bangkok. Ivy Hot Springs Resort, America's oldest hot spring resort located in South California. Ingo has also invested into Space Yoga and Space Cycle, alongside Jack Ma of Alibaba and Matthew Allison, former CEO of EMI Music. Ingo was a board director of Mandarin Oriental Hotel Group and earlier a corporate director of operations for the Oberoi Group. Under his guidance, the globally renowned destination spas of Shah Wellness Clinic and Ananda in the Himalayas were established. Little thank you to you, Ingo, for showing up, and give a wave to the audience. We also accompanied today by Sandie Johannessen, the Senior Spa Director for Four Seasons. As Senior Spa Director alongside her supporting team in Asia Pacific, Sandie has a long embraced the virtues of a harmonious approach to well-being. Sandie makes daily efforts to be balanced, both physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Sandie is half Danish and half Thai. She's a passionate advocate of multidimensional wellness and largely inspired by the heritage of wellness within Asia Pacific. In her role, she aims to facilitate a guest's journey to well-being holistically. The Well-Being Centre at Four Seasons facilitates personal growth through harnessing spirituality and self-awareness of the mind, the body and massage treatments, and also fitness and yoga for activity and for work. Avidly studying the science of Ayurveda, she has visited an ashram in India, found new facets of herself in an Israeli kibbutz, and meditated at silent Buddhist retreats, seeking out experiences that she knows are transformative, and so she can give her guests similar reinvigorating and life-changing experiences. Thank you, Sandie, for joining us today. And lastly, but not least, we have Andrea Lomas, the Group Head for Spa Operations of the Mandarin Oriental Hotel Group. Andrea is responsible for overseeing spa operations and training, as well as implementation of all spa marketing strategies throughout the group's portfolio of 30+ spas worldwide. Andrea has 30 years of spa and project development experience, successfully launching all the group's new spa operations. And prior to being with Mandarin Oriental Hotel Group, she was involved in some of the world's best spas, including the award-winning Ananda in Himalayas and the Crown Hotel Spa in Australia. Andrea formerly had her own spa consultancy for over 10 years, and she is passionate about holistic wellness, recently graduating as an integrative nutrition health coach and utilizing this training to guide clients towards behavioral changes for improved nutrition, diet, and fitness, which leads them to greater health and wellness overall. Thank you to all our panel speakers today for showing up. I'm now going to simply get started. It's enough of me talking. Audience, we welcome you and wish for you to contribute and participate live. There is a chat function. Please make sure you are in this session chat when you seek to type in to contribute with us. Please share your thoughts by commenting as often as possible. Our speakers will try as much as possible to engage you through answering your questions directly, by camera, and also by chat. I will try to take some of your questions at the end. Today, thank you all for showing up, and I'd just like to begin by asking the first question to our panel, which is, what emerging trends and demands are you all expecting to see within the wellness landscape post-COVID? And I'd like to start, first of all, with Lindsay.
Great, yeah. Well, I think we've already seen a really large demand in terms of the online accessibility. And I think one of the emerging trends that we're going to continue to see from the space that I work within is the online training market. The accessibility, I think we're also moving towards people with a more balanced lifestyle. I think people are used to having this more flexible life, 4 days a week, and I think that incorporates a lifestyle wellness. I think mental health initiatives are going to continue to rise. Meditation, breath work, that's always had an importance and a place in the industry, but it's now had an increased spotlight, and I think we're going to continue to see that evolve as well. And I think online membership, not just in particular to fitness trainings and yoga trainings, but also other types of life coaching and self-enrichment programs. There's a lot more accessibility, and people are more comfortable bringing those platforms online now.
Thank you for that, Lindsay. That's great. Ingo, would you like to follow up on that same question?
Yeah, I think the key is greater awareness. I think every market segment knows much more about what it takes to have a strong immune system. Therefore, I believe in general, macroeconomically, the world has grown in awareness of wellness services, and I think that will influence wide variety of different modalities, as Lindsay has just detailed. So I think it's very good for the wellness industry. I think it's going to boost it and it's going to make it grow substantially more.
Wonderful. Thank you. Sandie, going to you next.
Yes, I would say that in terms of demand, cleanliness and hygiene is now a non-negotiable core of how we operate. Well, it's always, as a Four Seasons, we've always been very fussy and pedantic about our protocols and keeping those in mind. We've taken the next step with COVID. We have our own in-house training program, which is an affiliation with the Johns Hopkins Medical Facility out of the US. We're very proud alongside international experts who come in and keep us busy with a new set of information, the latest updates on health and safety decisions. And then we've appointed hygiene managers in every property. We're trained with Johns Hopkins. And so they walk around all day long, ensuring that the staff has the right communication and the right strategies to handle the guests and all their many questions.
Thank you, Sandie.
In terms of trends, we're seeing still high-tech treatment, but we're also seeing a lot less high-touch. So we're working on a lot of list of approved virtual low-touch treatments, biomeditation, chakra balancing, Reiki, hypnotherapy. That's really what we can offer our guests at the current moment.
Excellent. Thank you for that contribution. And lastly...
Thank you. So some of these trends, I would say, are rather permanent than rather just trends.
Yes, they're here to stay.
Some of these...
understood.
Andrea,
would you like to add on that?
I think it's been a great exposure, obviously, for wellness for us, because everybody's been looking at their own health and wellness. What we've seen in the facilities that we've opened, we've seen a tremendous focus on personal training. So this is something where people are really wanting that one-on-one training because they've been exposed to the high level demand and digital demand, which I think will continue to evolve even more. And really looking at that is also, there's a very limited corporate travel now, which we have a lot of corporate business, but nobody's traveling. So the focus is really looking at how can we provide virtual meetings. We have a program that we call Mindful Meetings, which is where we expose wellness into our meetings. So we're actually looking at that, and I think there's going to be a demand for that, where people have been exposed to wellness and they also want to have a new way of working and a new way of balance in their life. And at the same time, it's the leisure market, so it's the staycations, it's people just not being able to get away, but really focusing on those staycations within where you live. And families as well are key, because of course, you have children who are homeschooling, and they all sort of need sort of exposure of different activities because everything's cancelled. So it's really how can we accommodate, and really provide wellness activities there. So I think we're going to see an emerging trend on that leisure business, staycation business as well.
Wonderful. Thank you for that contribution. So, audience, you've seen it there. One of the things that are going to be coming about as of this, as Ingo and Lindsay said, is a multi-dimensional and more varied and more broad spectrum approach to programs and delivery. We've also seen that most of the panel have hinted that because things are currently closed or in an off phase or pause now, you're going to have a lot more virtual offerings and fixation towards what can be provided digitally. Above and beyond that, we're looking at not just producing high touch, but also low touch programs across the board, and really utilizing the time right now for training, as well as at the same time ensuring that what we are doing is promoting future stays. We're really looking now not just to surviving. How do we thrive as businesses? How do we get those guests back? So thank you very much for those comments. That was great. My next question, I'm going to start off by asking Ingo first, is what new concepts and services and offerings will we see being launched to meet the demands of a more health conscious consumer?
Our Hovas consultancy first was asked 2.5 years ago to help the Saudi Sovereign Fund to create an entire wellness destination, a $16 billion development, which I think is right now the biggest in the world, dedicated to wellness and well-being, art and related. Subsequently, Kazakhstan came, then the Norwegian Sovereign Fund joined us as partner in the project in Norway, and a couple of weeks ago, Bhutan came. So I see that large sovereign funds are getting into an entire strategy of how wellness can become part of that. And then countries like Norway, Kazakhstan, and Saudi have substantially invested behind it. So that's one. The second example is an example actually from the United States. We're doing a project there where there's 1,000 condos in one development. And how are they sold? They are sold via a 15,000 square meter or 160,000 square feet dedicated wellness, fitness, bathing facility. So the size of 15,000 square meter, that's like 120, 140 room hotel. So it's a substantial amount of real estate space and money is dedicated in order to sell 1,000 condos. So that's very, very, very unusual. Last but not least, we can see a lot of biohacking, holistic biohacking, technology biohacking, dietary biohacking. People want to influence through their behaviors, through their purchasing, through what they eat, how they feel, what they do, and what they can, how they can influence their well-being. And that's kind of fascinating. So I see it on many different levels. I see many different concepts, and I see real estate, natural funds, as well as the individual influencing his well-being through dedicated services and intakes and activities.
Wonderful, thank you. Sandie, I'm going to come to you next to expand on that.
Yes, what we are looking at in terms of services and offerings would be a lot more online sessions. A lot of our hotels have been closed down, and we have clients and guests around the world who are very keen to work with one specific practitioner. We have a great pool of Ayurvedic doctors, dietitians, and we have almost 120 properties worldwide. So you're still able to work with your favorite Ayurvedic doctor or health specialist from home. Well, why should they do that? Why, instead of doing free something on YouTube? Well, it's all about that heart and touch and connection and emotion, which we as a brand and the trust they have in ourselves as a brand. And I guess we as spa leaders really need to focus and develop this kind of new norm to offer services online. A lot of our clients these days are also requesting to have in-room fitness activities. We've had several requests from guests who don't feel comfortable exercising with others. So we have everything available for them in terms of sound and light therapy, resistant bands, essential oils and crystal whenever they may desire, which we sanitize and send to them so they're more comfortable in their own living space. Again, depending on country to country, there is constant adjustment according to the local rules and regulations.
Thank you for that. Thank you very much. So Ingo, they're talking really, audience, about the large breadth and volume of approaches that can be made, and Sandie illustrating quite clearly that although that's key, another thing that's very key is the authenticity and the integrity to which you offer those things, so the customer really feels the depth of that, not just the breadth. I'm now going to go quickly to Andrea and then Lindsay for the same question. Andrea.
Well, I think what we've seen and what we've been focusing on is very much on the mental wellness, that Lindsay mentioned earlier. And this is something that we're really looking at that's emerging, because also at the same time, people are exposed to tremendous amounts of time on digital devices. We have a whole program which we call Digital Wellness, and we were working, originally the goal was 2.0 digital wellness, and this is just coming naturally. Throughout this, with the mental wellness, we've been taking a good look at sort of all the colleagues that we have on furlough, and really looking at what they need and the colleagues who are working in our properties as well. So we're about to launch a program which is called Inner Strength, Outer Strength, and is based on, first of all, physical vitality to really get the body strong, and this is a series of different activities and exercises. Mental wellness as well, which is mindfulness and meditation activities. And at the same time with that is also based on character strengths and building the authenticity, because this is a time for people to really build resistance in themselves, but really have time for reflection as well. So it's a real, we're just about to launch this for colleagues first, and then this will be launched for clients in the future. But again, we see that this is going to just really only evolve, because people really need some stillness and real focus on their mental wellness as well at the same time.
Absolutely, Andrea. Thank you for that. And I know that also your colleague, Jeremy McCarthy, does a lot of talks on digital wellness and how it's implicating the brand. And it's great to have that real approach from all of you.
Yeah, and I think on that side is also with the children as well, because they're so much exposed, to their computers. It's really sort of how can we balance the children emerging and growing up as well. So that's another focus which we do, the little, as we call them, the little fans as well.
Perfect, thank you. Well, Lindsay, you've got a unique perspective, being both coming from a luxury brand and now starting your own consultancy. How would you see this question being tackled yourself?
I think that we're going to continue to see a growth in content companies. So we've seen a lot of companies like Peloton and Techno Gym, and I think who's actually done it incredibly well with the resources that they have is the individual practitioners, is that they are now creating this content-driven business where it's now allowed for this global accessibility to be able to do all of these courses. And although, to Sandie's point, there will probably be a decrease of intentional experience and authenticity if you're doing it through a screen. However, what it has opened up is the opportunity that now I don't need to get onto a plane and travel and spend a certain amount of money in order to do an experience, which means that companies can now drive content volume. And the user, although it's kind of a sacrifice for them that I won't be able to engage in this one-to-one experience, but on the other side of that, I'm going to be able to do more with my time. So if I were to look at this for myself, even from a content perspective, I recently took a 50-hour advanced online training for yoga. There were 75 people that showed up for the course at $400 each. That content was created one time and can then be created over and over and over. So when you look at it from a volume perspective, I was still able to benefit from the course as a user. I wasn't there and I didn't have that spiritual experience, but now I can take that and I can put that additional money that I would have put into travel and to moving around and put it into other courses. So I think we're going to continue to see this online content and driving volume. And then I also think that that's going to lead to memberships. And another example I have of that is there's an online life coach that I was checking out online the other day. And you can't actually even access her page now until you have a membership to her content. So now her content involves getting a membership, which I thought was a really clever way of accessing that information.
Right. Absolutely. It's a way of building loyalty to that brand as well. And I think probably what you're going to see is a lot of these brands are going to be outsourcing their content to another company whose job is specifically to do that. Right. And that way it opens up new synergies, new partnerships, and new abilities for someone to be guaranteed content which is seamless and well organized as well. So thank you for that panel. It's a great answer to that specific question. I'm now going to ask you the third question, which is, how is economic uncertainty impacting development plans, and when do we expect investment and confidence to return to the marketplace? And Sandie, I'm going to start with you if you don't mind.
Sure. Well, it's a very big and broad question for a 120 hotel chain, but let's be very brutal and honest here. There currently is not enough business on the market for us to sustain ourselves. So what we are doing, and the strategy we are taking until we find out when the world is going to resume and business is going to return, is that we focus on maintaining our employee levels, and we focus a lot on employee welfare. The future of the Four Seasons business is on the people, working with them as a team, speaking to them and help them drive our business and maximize that stability. That's really what we're looking at. We have had several calls, especially here in Asia Pacific, where we have invited quite a numerous amount of spiritual masters, health coaches, and other mental welfare and wellness professionals to tune in on the calls. So regardless of where our team members were in Asia Pacific, they could log on and get some nourishment as a group, which they really appreciated.
That's great. I know that you and I have spoken before about how good as a brand and as a team you are in engagement of consumers and engagement of guests, and you've been doing that even throughout this crisis. But it's great to see that you're also focusing very much on the engagement of employees and their well-being. That will pay great dividends later on. I'd like to now go from Sandie to Andrea to ask that same question.
Well, we're fortunate. We have owned properties, and then we also have managed properties. So we're fortunate on our managed properties to work with owners that are very financially stable. So the development is still continuing ahead. There are a few delays, and there has been the odd property which has been cancelled. But for the most at the moment, we're just steamrolling ahead with our development plans. And as I said, you know, we're finding maybe 6 months to a year at this moment. We're looking at maybe some potential delays, but it's really all steam ahead with our opening development properties right now.
Blair.
Okay.
Or maybe Blair. I'm gonna hop on then and answer the question next. I think when we're looking at it from a general perspective of just people in general, I think people are embracing this economic uncertainty, and there's a certain payoff for more freedom. And I think people over the last however many months have come to accept that. I think when we look at an ownership perspective, I mean, I'm only just fresh out of Accor, but to Andrea's point, our development was actually still quite strong. And in speaking with our development team, there was going to be, probably an increase in the number of projects that were signed this year over last year. So developments were still active. I also think, on an entrepreneurial mindset, that this has opened up the space. People have a lot more time. They have a lot more knowledge. They've had space to think things out. I mean, I'm a great example of that. But that is going to really ignite this entrepreneurial mindset where people are going to be coming up with new opportunities, small businesses, and they're finding different ways to adapt. So I think, some of the best projects have come out of recessions. So I think this economic uncertainty has allowed people that time and space to be able to look outside of their normal day-to-day box and see what the next opportunity is.
Yeah.
And now, Ingo, I'll hand it over to you. I'm going to be the host for a bit.
Hi, Blair.
Sorry, go ahead, Ingo. My apologies. I cut for a second, but it is your turn to speak on that same question. Apologies, audience, for that tech glitch.
I believe macroeconomically, I don't think the COVID situation is by any means even in its middle. I think we are in the early parts. I 100% believe that the worst will come next year, when, because of unemployment, debt situation, all those macroeconomic things, there will be much more trouble in the economy. So that's one part. The other part, I clearly can see that some of the big boxes from the hotel groups, but also the sovereign funds, as well as other conglomerates. We had 2 particular inquiries, very interesting, of conglomerates who are right now in agriculture and in food processing and entertainment. They suddenly want to move into wellness, and they have substantial funds to make that work, and they're looking for companies to ensure that they get the services and the education and the deliverables to make this work. So I can see 2 things. Net, I believe the economic impact hasn't really impacted yet of what COVID does. There's a huge contraction in the economy. There's going to be a huge amount of bankruptcies still coming, and unemployment and related. Many of the big boxes, I can tell you, Marriott, for example, has engaged us to do an entire strategy for the entire company related to wellness. So big companies do this already. And then there is outsiders, different individuals who suddenly started to invest into wellness. And I think there will be a huge amount of developments. And as everybody of my colleagues here just shared, the time has allowed us to think more about wellness. More people are aware, and that will drive and foster a huge amount of growth in wellness hospitality at large.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Thank you, Ingo. That was very insightful. Lindsay, I did cut off, but did you get a chance to answer this question, or should I go to you now?
I did. I took over host for you, Blair.
Wonderful. Even better. I can move on swiftly to the next question, and then hopefully we'll have more time, audience, for some of your questions at the end. So my next question is, with the absence of tourism, business and travel right now, how must businesses energize their local communities for domestic business? just due to the pause of international travel. So I'm going to start off now by coming to you, Andrea, first, and then Lindsay for you next.
So I think, you know, from our side, we've always had we call it FLHSS, which is a very stringent process for health and safety. And we quite recently launched the We Care program. And this is really going out to all hotels to really make sure that our clients and our guests trust in the brand, obviously, that their hygiene levels are at a high standard. So that's one area. We as a hotel company, in some properties, particularly in Hong Kong, at Landmark, we have 75% of local business. And in many of the hotels, it's around about 40 or 50%. So in KL, it's a little bit different. It's only 20%, but this is something to really focus on. What does the local community need? The events are one area to really start to focus on, staycations, family retreats as well. Like I said, people are needing to get out of the home and really go away where mum and dad can enjoy maybe spa treatments and services, but also then the kids are entertained and educated with maybe some really fun programs. So this is something I think that we'll see, and from our side of things, this is really something that we have been pioneering ahead. And when we opened up, we've had to close Hong Kong again, but we were finding business was just thriving, to be very honest, with the local community. So it is there, it's just to build that awareness, and I think the events are one area to really bring in that community to really showcase sort of the wellness offerings that you have as well.
Thank you, Andrea, for that. And obviously you are an example of how your region has opened up and thrived from that, and then all of a sudden had to rebound. And that's something that you're going to see happen in a lot of regions across the world. So grateful to have your insight. Lindsay?
I think in general, there's obviously going to be a decrease in business travel, which means there's going to be a decrease in air travel in general, which is probably going to spike up air prices, which means that air travel to get somewhere and do something is now actually going to become a luxury. And to the point of businesses really focusing on that local business, I think just as a different perspective is that wellness is going to become more commercialized than ever. And I think this is a really good opportunity for businesses to really narrow down their focus, to really understand a clearer strategy of what wellness means to their business, and to really, and for me, I see that as an opportunity to differentiate, because you're going to have everybody now moving towards this community, local business. And in that sense, I think each business has to have a very clear vision of what that means to their business in order to succeed.
Very insightful indeed. I think from our perspective, we see this every day in the fitness world. The people who might go to a Barry's boot camp are very different from the people who might go to a Virgin Active, and so on and so forth. And although we speak across the brands that might be something that exists between Four Seasons and Accor and Mandarin Oriental Hotel Group, it's going to be much more so when we really establish the differentiation of wellness programs within these brands and how that translates to guest experience overall. So great point. Sandie, if I can come to you, and then Ingo last for the same question.
Yeah, so hopefully this will be a temporary situation. The world can't come to a complete halt. But we have taken steps in place for a lot of our local users. I'll give you an example here. In Thailand, we have about 12 million Thais who would travel out annually. And currently, they're all confined to stay in the country. So there is quite a lot of scope for local business. I've been very fortunate myself being stranded in Thailand to travel to some of the best destination retreats the country has to offer, and also visit some of our competitor and best properties within Bangkok City. However, we must make sure that our service standards are still kept very high. As rumors has it in Thailand currently, with all these discounted rates, that the service level is dropping a little bit, that people are not treated according to the golden rule to treat others as they wish to be treated, because of the volume of local clientele coming in using the services. Social media is another big story. In Asia Pacific, we see a lot of guests asking to have their pictures taken. A lot of the team members are supporting them to have their personalized and private pictures taken and share those on various channels, as opposed to just looking at a hotel's regular web page and looking at their postings. More again, that personalized service, the trusted recommendation and word of mouth of your friends and family members.
That's right. I mean, now everyone has the time and everyone has the narrowing of customers. So that real personalization and customized approach is going to be ever more key and present to everyone's mind. If they start to feel generalist, or they start to feel in any way generic, it's going to be very off-putting. Ingo, could you just expand on this question lastly?
Just briefly, I mean, clear is that regional travel has substantially increased everywhere in the world. Here in Asia, since some time, you can see since the last 5 years, regional travel moved from the 40s to the mid-60s. So that means 65% of travel in this part of the world is already regional. If you look at Thailand, there's 40 million visitors, of which I think 68% is from within Asia Pacific. So there is a huge amount of regional travel. You can see on an island like Samui, which was focusing always on the international traveler, who is right now suffering in comparison to Phuket and other locations, because they're only focused on the international traveler. And right now, the hotels are empty in Samui, but in Phuket and in Chiang Mai, in Kanchanaburi and other locations, they are much full. And we earlier mentioned Kenai. We have 220,000 visitors there last year, generating $32 million in spa services in one facility. And there was no fly-in, there was 92% dedicated Californian customers. So that's unusual, but you can clearly see as an example here that there is regional travel, and in terms of Glen Ivy, in a matter of 1.5 hours, you have 40 million people that drive to one facility, and you can capture them. So marketing operation has to refocus and has to make sure that they do what it takes to get the local consumer into your facility. But that's happening, and that will continue to grow.
Very astutely put, my friend. That's great. Wonderful. Okay, so moving on to the next question panel. Great responses there. I think the audience is very happy with those. We are going to see investment into design as businesses start to redraw their facilities for safer and more hygienic environments to ensure that COVID transmission is entirely minimalized and confidence is increased. I'd like you all to maybe take a moment or two just to describe what you see people and brands doing in the upcoming months to affect that change. And I'm going to start off, if you don't mind, with Lindsay first.
Sure, yeah. I think any way that they could build in design, for example, like no door handles and having automatic doors and having more of a, I say touch experience in terms of just user accessibility and ease within operations. I think things like air quality will probably increase. Catherine Chan from Catch On actually just wrote a fantastic white paper on future cities, where she interviewed probably about 15 different architects from different design firms all over the world. And it was really interesting to read about all of their different perspectives of how this future in design is going to work. So if you haven't seen that, tag into that on LinkedIn. It's a fantastic white paper and really gives just an overall, different perspective from a variety of different architecture firms on what building for the fitness or building for the future means.
Great, wonderful. Thank you very much. And Kathy is an expert on certainly looking at the uniform approach of brands and design agencies. I'm going to move now to Ingo as well. You have a specific slant on design and focus therein. What would you like to impart to this conversation?
I think more resilient design, which is adaptable to the crisis, to the present crisis and future ones, I think becomes very common. Biophilic design, carbon neutral materials, efficient exterior design, sustainable farming will all grow and prosper. LEED certification was 10 years ago something special. That's not a standard today. And again, I'd like to give an example from the offices. We have Kangen water in our offices, we have air filters, we have circadian lighting. So all of those things become normal, and I think it's the right time that they become normal. I'm very happy about that they become normal, and quite frankly, they will only help the entire population become healthier and wealthier.
Very, very well put, very well said. Now, if I could move to Andrea for your input to this question.
So in Mandarin, we always have what we call an innovation cycle, and this is really in every spa we're looking at to develop something different. So we'll continue with this, of course, but you know, the focus really now is it will become digital check-ins. There's not going to be paperless, you know, so we're really looking at the paperless check-ins. At the same time, also the private experiences, because as people become a little bit more, I'd say we call them COVID sensitive, you know, and hygiene sensitive. It's looking, I mean, we've always had sort of suite experiences, but looking at more private areas for people to, you know, experience on their own and not be so much as public. So that's quite a strong focus for us right now.
Excellent. Well put. Well said. Sandie, lastly on this topic.
Yeah. And I would also second that to Andrea's in terms of spacing. We have several requests all the time, and we're looking into our future projects of creating more biosecure spaces. So there's no opportunity for the disease or any other transmitted disease to move forward. So it's going to cost more money. We see it with our hair salons. We have 4 chairs, 2 are being taken out. So space is a big thing, because there would be less utility in every single division of that. Artificial intelligence is something we've started to invest much more in. Robots, IT, anybody or any of these gadgets which offer digital solutions and innovation. That is what we see. We see temperature scanners, infrared machines, hyperized massage tools. All these are coming in as people break away free from their confinement and have been locked up in smaller living spaces. Yeah, the wellness industry is definitely here to stay. People are taking care of their health more, what Ingo was saying with the Kangen order. They are valuing their immune system and how to build up their body should anything come into their direction.
Excellent, wonderful. Thank you all for that. It's really a very common question which the audience have been asking is how are brands going to ensure the confidence of consumer return? And one thing that I would just add to that, which I think is going to be essentially surmised by all the speakers, is that they're all used to working for extremely high-end luxury brands who are renowned, each of them individually and all together, for their amazing resources and time and effectiveness at which they employ hygiene to a high standard, where they actually value safety and instill protocols across their whole brands. So I have to give all of the brands and all the speakers credit for doing that, and building on what Lindsay said, we have to work on a contactless approach to what Ingo said as well. We're looking at a whole series of offerings which we can use to support our immune system and guests. And then lastly, to what Andrea and Sandie said, this is going to continue, and we're going to see people working on a number of levels across the board on this. So great point, and hopefully that answers the audience question, and I'll hopefully answer even more questions to the audience at the end. My last question to the speakers before we take some of the audience questions is, there is a commercial future for both virtual and online wellness. Where do we see that happening? And bluntly, which brands and regions are leading the curve in that respect? And I'd like to start off with Sandie.
Yeah, maybe who wins the race? Well, maybe it's not so important who wins the race. However, I do believe that any tech company who offers these digital solutions and innovations might be the one who are the winners. Tesla, any other IT company manufacturing medical devices. And yourself, Blair Russell, with your Fit Summit. So really companies who's able to integrate artificial intelligence and make it their programs most efficient to consumers. We highly benefit of this new way of connecting and meeting online, as opposed to the big conferences where we all flew in and went on stage. Currently, with Four Seasons, we've stitched a little bit of a network around the world. We work on offering classes around the clock, 120 properties, so there is a scope for on-the-clock services, whether you're in the US, Middle East, Africa, Asia, Pacific, or Europe. You can really log in and avail any of our services, regardless of where you are.
Wonderful, and thank you for that. One of the things that the Fit Summit did note and shine a light on was the particular partnership which Four Seasons had with Tonal, which for the audience is essentially a technology and fitness equipment brand. And that's a great example of one of the things in which brands can do is have partnerships with great partners and successful brands who are fostering this exact topic and bringing you forth in forth of innovation. I'd like to move now to Ingo for the same question.
Yeah, no brick and mortar fitness or spa business can succeed with substantial content. We discussed this earlier, Lindsay talked about it. It is very clear that many hotel companies, they outsource PR, marketing, communication, and online developments. And I can tell you, I think that has to be taken in. In my company, we have 5 people in marketing and the online content, so I'm going to strengthen that team next year because that will be very, very important how we develop additional content for related brands. I also believe that there is more and more cross-marketing happening, and I can take Space as an example there. The biggest collaborators of Space, we have 12 locations right now, is Lululemon and Mercedes. Now, everybody would have expected Lululemon. We just opened the Lululemon headquarters in China, and we put a big Space yoga studio and a spinning studio inside. But Mercedes, a car company, a conservative car company, being our biggest sponsor in terms of dollar and related and the way how we interact with them, that shows that there is different industries moving into this now. In terms of, and then we're working with celebrities. I mean, what we have done in Space is we work with the trainers for Beyoncé, Jessica Alba, Taylor Swift, and things like that, in order to have them developing content for us, and then the consumers being able to spin or practice yoga with their movement and their music and their intention, and stream that in the respective studio. So I think that is just one example of this. The other one is House of Yoga. We are co-partners in Delight Yoga. There are 5 studios in Amsterdam, or in Holland actually. And there's 65,000 subscribers for $2 a month in order to practice yoga with some of the most senior people. So that's a good example. And I think another example is what happened to Peloton. Peloton, LVMH invested them, was a $4 billion company, it's an $8.1 billion company today in less than a year. So clearly content is important. Content needs to be done specifically by a very specific group of very skilled individuals to do that. One cannot do that on the side, one cannot just outsource that, one has to really put one's heart and soul inside in order to make that work.
Wonderful, thank you for that. And perhaps I could get Sandie, your insights here as well. Sorry. Sorry, I meant Andrea, my apologies.
So we've seen the biggest pivot has been obviously, as we've been discussing, on the digital wellness. So, you know, from our side, we had to really sort of look at like what digital content do we already have. Totally agree with Ingo. This has to be something that's done internal, and we do run this internally within the hotel group. We ran 24 hours of wellness for Global Wellness Day because we were looking at that, and we were also live streaming events. So this is something that we'll continue to see the development. Now, we are lucky that we work with a company called GOCO, and they're based out of the US, and they're an online wellness content. They've been around for many, many years, but we have them within the hotels, and we have them as part of our meetings. We have them as part of our colleague wellness program. So at the same time, on our side, we're thinking about it. You know, we're running, just about to launch our Inner Strength and Outer Strength, and this is going out in all online content to 12,000 colleagues globally. So again, this is something, but I would say we need to look out for the small startups. That'll be April, you know, to really sort of move ahead very quickly on things, because sometimes when you're working on a hotel company and a brand, the look and feel of everything, it can take a little bit longer for approvals. But that is something I think we'll see, that there will be an emerging sort of brand of small startup companies that will come out of this. And I think it has to be something that's offered continuously, online content from each brand. So, yes.
Thank you very much. And lastly, Lindsay?
Yeah, I don't know, back to your question, I don't know who the winner is going to be, but it wouldn't surprise me if it's an existing company, obviously, that like a Google or an Amazon that already has brand equity, already has client databases, already has, you know, all of these, you know, creating some type of a sub brand where they're able to easily access people through an existing technology anyway. So I don't know who it's going to be, but I think it would be quite interesting to see how the bigger companies will respond to this and how they might be able to create sub-entities that support wellness.
Excellent. Well, thank you all to each of our panelists for their contributions. I'd like to ask you one of the questions from the audience. The question is coming from Simon Shepherdson of International Leisure Consultants. And that is, with the industry not being able to open with COVID, how can the wellness industry work together to develop the data to persuade governments of the benefits of health, fitness and wellness? So effectively the lobbying factor. We've seen this being of real importance internationally in the fitness industry as well as the hospitality industry. So I'd like to start off with Ingo and Lindsay answering this, and then Sandie and Andrea, I'm going to ask you a different question if you don't mind. So Ingo?
I think it's data. We're working with sports sovereign funds. They want data. They want they don't want fluff. One of the problems of industry in the last 2 years is there was a lot of fluff. And we were not accepted as an industry as we should have, because from a hotel perspective, you know, the spa director were not part of the executive committee. Andrea will remember that one of the first moves in Mandarin I made, I said, every spa director needs to be in the EXCO, right? Like I was in OPCO, right? That's a very important move. People need to be taken seriously, but also spa director needs to become business drivers. They need to be well versed in marketing, operational, psychological, other administrative matters, which often was not the case. That has evolved very nicely and needs to evolve further. But I don't see an issue there, Simon, because I think there is already a lot of collaboration there. But the collaboration is that the wellness industry at large has to become an industry of high professionals. Big bucks are moving in, big funds are moving in. Companies like McKinsey, when we're working with McKinsey and Booz Allen, you know, that is unusual. That wasn't there before. So one needs to ensure to deliver meat and not deliver fluff. I think that's the overriding kind of important aspect in order to be recognized.
Absolutely, very key. Lindsay, can I just ask you to tag on to that same question from Simon?
Yeah, I agree with Ingo. Obviously, data is incredibly, you know, essential to this process. I think the governments are already in the process of evaluating the effects of this pandemic and what's to come on people's general mental health. We already see countries like, you know, more the Scandinavian countries, which are buying into this in the government. Not necessarily buying into it, but seeing it as an investment for the people of the country. So I think it's a great question that Simon put out, and I think it's a good opportunity for different countries to be able to understand what that means to the country based on the data and the people and what's happening within that. So
you've obviously worked for a very large brand with Accor. What is one of the obstacles from someone like Accor who has a lot of data to give, but in getting that data to the right people? What would one of the barriers be?
It's a great question. I don't know if I have the answer to that right now.
Well, I'm sure you can chat with Simon about that in future. So,
yeah,
audience,
I've written down his name.
With an impromptu question, we have to have the panelists reflect a little bit longer before they give you a more definitive answer. I'm sure that Lindsay can share now via chat her contacts so that Simon, you can discuss that with her more. And now we're moving on to a question by Kevin, who says Asia's been hit less, been less hit by COVID than other parts of the world, and therefore can recover faster. What influence are consumers around the world going to make decisions by in order for them to revive this? So both of you, Andrea and Sandie, are based in Asia Pacific. How do you see this?
Well, I think
recovering faster?
I think one of the reasons that we have been less hit, I mean, we did have the experience of SARS, you know, if you remember, Ingo, that was in 2003 when we were in Hong Kong, and, you know, we learned a lot through SARS. So that was immediately when COVID hit, those processes of wearing masks, hand sanitizers were already instilled in the people in the communities. So again, will people want to come out to Asia, because it's obviously long distance? We still have a lot of restrictions right now on quarantine. So again, I don't necessarily believe this is going to return so quickly. I think it's going to take a couple of years to really recover, in all honesty. But I do think, I mean, one thing that I wanted to put out, which I thought was quite interesting on CNN, was, you know, the innovations that are coming out, and one particularly in Taiwan. I don't know whether you've seen that quite recently. Eva Air have launched a flight called the Hello Kitty flight, where people can't travel, but they go on a flight and they land again back in Taipei. But it's an experience, you know. So I think, again, we have to look at the local domestic market, but those innovations, I mean, they're busy, and it's all on CNN, you know. So this is tremendous experiences, and I think, you know, there's a lot of people within Asia who are very, very creative and have the ability to come up with some great ideas. So I think we'll see that from more of a local market right now, as opposed to international travel.
Excellent, wonderfully entertaining example. Sandie, just on closing, if I could get you to answer that same question from Kevin of Willify.
Yes, again, also what Andrea was mentioning, hygiene and health and everything. The people in Asia Pacific have been wearing masks for years. There is SARS, as Andrea mentioned, but there's also against regular pollution. They have really kept in mind, and they're quite well educated in how to maintain their health in that agenda. So if people cannot travel out, the initiatives is that you visit some of our hotels online, and that you have the trainings with the team members online. That's what we can offer for the time being. We also have, for some of the hotels we've shut down, we still operate our retail shops. We still produce some of our F&B in-house. So if you have a local honey you really like, which is produced in-house, well, then we can still continue to send that to you in spite of the fact that our hotel might be closed.
Excellent, thank you very much. Panel, it's been a pleasure. We are running very low on time. I'm going to ask you all one final question, but before I come back to it, I'll let you have time to reflect. The last question I'd like to pose to you all is there a specific word or phrase which you would like to communicate to our audience in closing as a positive message for the industry? I'll give you all 60 seconds to reflect on that now. And for the audience watching, in closing, I'd like to thank all of our speakers, Lindsay Madden-Nadeau of Meraki Wellness, Sandie Johannessen of Four Seasons, Ingo Schweder of GOCO Hospitality, and Andrea Lomas of Mandarin Oriental Hotel Group. And thank all of you watching for your engagement. It's been an absolute pleasure. Next, after this current panel, you can either participate in the Spa Hangout group networking session in the sessions, or you can hang out via wellness in the group networking sessions. Both of those will be in your sessions tab at 12 o'clock. You will also be able to interact in a industry quiz where you can also win some prizes if you just want some fun and giggles. That's also going to be in sessions. And if you wish to go to the stage, you can watch the Global CEO keynote presentation from Lonnie Wang of Katik Wellness Group, a health club chain in China with over 50 different properties. Going back to our speakers, if I could ask you in closing for that final phrase, Lindsay.
I think it's this is a time for opportunity and for new ventures.
Excellent, thank you very much. Ingo.
I agree with that. Health is your only true wealth. I believe that health is your only true wealth. What about cash in the bank? If you're not healthy, forget it.
Wonderful, thank you very much. And Sandie?
I had something on the similar note, so self-care, self-love, and only then are we able to really help others if we take care of ourselves first and foremost.
Wonderful. Thank you for that insight. And Andrea, in closing?
Continue to believe in what we do and remember the difference we can make in people's lives, so that even when there's the going gets a bit tough, you know, we have to continue to pioneer because we are the future.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And final 60 seconds of closing before this panel ends. What I'd like to echo is just what Andrea said. These leaders that we have here as speakers and the brands they represent are here for you at all times. Some of the speakers right now are taking the opportunity to leave their contact details in the chat so that you can reach out to them personally. I'd also like to say that tough times do happen and tough times are ahead of us. They are not only behind, but it's tough leaders and tough brands that excel in these times. And you are all going to come out stronger and better and more renowned in the consumer and public's eyes for doing so. For those of you who are in the audience watching, if you are or have not checked out the expo, then please feel free to browse that. That is where some of our sponsors have their new products, innovations, video promotion details, and do become acquainted with these leading brands whilst you are networking or whilst you are participating in these sessions. There are so many people here to connect with. That is what the FIT Summit is really here for. It's to help engage, connect, and allow you to learn from the content of these wonderful speakers and brands who have given their time voluntarily to come and assist us today in providing the content we can to all of you. Thank you everyone for all your contributions. Panel, it's been an absolute pleasure to have each of you here. I look forward to when we can catch up again, both personally in the physical presence as well as at the next event. The next time we'll be having the Spam Wellness panel will be in October. And until then, we'll be able to download this full session. Thank you to Lindsay, to Sandie, to Ingo, and to Andrea. It's been great to have you all here. Keep up the charge in doing all of your collective good work. And audience, we wish you all the very best ahead. Keep smiling, keep having fun. Remember that we're all here for you. And it's been a pleasure and privilege to serve you up to this point in time. Thank you all.
Thank you, Blair.
Thank you, Blair.
Everybody.